So today is the last day for this camp. In August, we'll be having 8 days instead of 7 days. 8th day will be summary session at Savitri Bhavan. So, unless usually that's the norm, that means till 23rd August and not 22nd August. This for those who come from outside and book the tickets accordingly. So just to once again recapitulate the journey, the book of death is also seen from still another arc of vision. It's a journey of the human soul from darkness to light, from non-being to the true being, from death to immortality. The journey begins with the soul plunged in the night, where it sees nothing, knows nothing, and yet the Divine Mother is there with it. Right from there, we are never abandoned. And as it begins from that state of utter unconsciousness, what she wants is to win for us immortality, freedom, truth, bliss, oneness. And what she carries with her is the power of love, which binds the human soul and the Divine Mother. So at first, this journey starts with a stark denial. So in the beginning of our evolutionary journey, not necessarily in one life, it goes through many lives, there is a total denial of anything. After all, death says truth. So what is truth? Basically, we all want to know, is there a stable basis or reality underlying all this? That's how truth is to be seen, not like my truth, your truth, legal truth, police truth, obviously. They're all relative things. But is there a stable basis? So it starts with this experience that there is none. That's how it starts. Death says there is nothing. Actually, I am the only fellow. So what is matter? I have created this world of matter. Anytime I can snatch it back. So actually there is no stable reality, meaning thereby there is no truth. Then as it climbs further, when Savitri asserts that no, there is love, you don't know it. So the next level is when we come out of this purely sensory, limited idea of life, wherein we just go by surface appearances. We live in the desired self. So death says, oh yes, I understand. Love is all these desires, emotions, longing of the heart, cravings, and you call it truth? You think that is going to save Satyavan? So that's the next level. When even our conception in the beginning, when we are completely engulfed in the trance of matter and the darkness of death, we deny anything like God or anything. If there is a God, it is those material gods of nature. But at the next level, the conception of God also changes. God is somebody who fulfills our desires. So that's the next level, and Savitri actually gets what she demands for Satyavan eventually from death. He yields. So, and then he says, well, it's over, now you go back. There is nothing more than that. At the next level, we see that as we grow, we begin to have conceptions of reality. We don't know the reality, but we have conceptions. So usually these conceptions are borrowed conceptions. We are born in a certain religion, or we have read certain books, or we are born in a tradition, and etc., etc., and we form a conception of truth. So death challenges that also. And as we read last time, at the end it says, all these conceptions are created by reason. But look, Savitri, reason itself stands on a plank of doubt. So, actually, if you ask me, there is no truth. But at the end, because now he has gone into a state of agnosticism, that is the ultimate to which reason can take us. If we really rationally look at life and try to analyze, we will reach a state of agnosticism. And most human beings pass through this phase before they can leap into the, unless they just carry on a belief system. Otherwise, we see both Sri Aurobindo and the mother went through a phase of that kind, where we challenge all the conceptions, whether of life, of God, of truth, of reality, and we arrive at, well, we don't know. So that's what death says. Or maybe there is something which I don't know. Can you show it to me? So that's where he stops. That, can you show me truth's face? I don't know. Reason cannot give the truth. So now comes a tremendously powerful and beautiful answer through which Savitri is progressively revealing to death what is truth. So the need for truth is there, because we need to know what is there a stable plank underlying all this. So she starts by saying that, look, death, you see these opposites, bright and dark. It is the mind that has created these oppositions. Actually, they are one. In the mind, it is cut and ascended. And then she says they are not really cut, but they are two poles of existence, and both are necessary for the human soul for progress. It needs both the currents of the world force, which actually help it to progress. As we know that, this positive and negative, everything in this world, rain and cloud formation and everything, this twofold current of life. In the Vedas also it is described. The rubbing of the lower and the higher hemisphere. That's how the light is to be ignited. Fire has to be ignited. So through that there is an awakening. Both serve a purpose. So thus far we had read last session. And then it goes on to say, actually this whole world is a mask of truth. So this is a subtle difference. It's a mask. And it's a mask that truth has worn, just as the tree becomes a seed, or a parent becomes or the mother becomes a baby. And if you really ask a baby in the womb, is there a mother? So there was a famous little story. One will say twins, so one will say there is no mother because I can't see, I can't feel, I can't know. Second will say somehow I trust there is someone out there who sometimes calls me. I can feel some hum and I'm being fed, nourished. There is something like a mother. And they have to wait. So the believer and non-believer are in the state of the womb. Both are in darkness. They really don't know the truth. But the difference is that someone who believes actually has his life a little more comfortable. But actually the face of truth will be seen by both. None is deprived. But for that they have to be born into the light. So what we are seeing now is death being born into the light. So we are on page 558. And those powerful lines, 658, I'm sorry, thank you. 658. And we stopped with these lines that a truth supreme has forced the world to be. This is the Sanatana Dharma. Actually, this entire passage of Savitri and goes on into book 11. If one really wants to understand what is Sanatana Dharma in its totality, this is where we get the completest picture. So it starts with the process of involution where the tree becomes the seed. It starts from the one is the million bodied. So eko ham bahushyami. We have read about it. So how does the one become many? Not by a lateral multiplication, but by an involution. Why? Because then only all the possibilities would emerge. Otherwise it will be just the replication of the same. But there is no such replication in evolutionary process. New things come up. It made of knowledge a veiled and struggling light. This truth supreme of being is substance nascent, dense and dumb. Of bliss, the beauty of an insentient world. And now comes one of the Mahavakyas. In finite things, the conscious infinite dwells. Science is discovering in its own way that in each atom of existence, there is infinite energy. It's just that somehow it is locked inside. That's why it is so. The same experience is discovered by the mystic human being at another pole, that I am not a limited being. There is infinite energy at the very base of the spine or above the head. That's how, Shivinda would put it. That's above the head. Yes. Put it at the right place. But there is infinite energy at the very base of matter, of substance. And in human beings also it is locked there. And we can unleash it. It can come up and change the whole thing. So, There is the conscious infinite. It's not now this conscious infinite is important because science would say yes, yes, behind matter there is, behind atom there is infinite energy, but it will say it's a mechanical unconscious energy. But the difference is conscious. The divine stands consciously. There is a poem of Sri Aurobindo, Electron, in which he says, in the electron, the fiery chariot of Shiva rides. So, it's a spark from that tremendous power. Involved, it sleeps in matter's helpless trance. Just as a tree sleeps in a seed or a baby sleeps in a single cell zygote in the womb of the mother, who is destined to be a hero or a sage, yet becomes so helpless in the womb. Because that is how its possibilities will come out like that. It rules the world from its sleeping, senseless void. Dreaming, it throws out mind and heart and soul. As it dreams, all these possibilities begin. From that trance it emerges, the trance of matter, and it begins to slowly emerge like a tree. At first there are roots and shoots and little bit of some twigs and branches. Fruits and flowers will come much later. So it begins to throw out these possibilities out of itself in a state of dream. That is how the famous Purana starts of creation, that out of Vishnu's navel there is the emergence of Brahma. So when Brahma wakes up, he says, am I alone? The first question he asks is, who am I? He doesn't know who is he. Quite natural. So he sees, no, there is someone else also there. And he is sleeping. So he has to wake him up. So there is a whole prayer of Brahma that please wake up, who are you? So then he wakes up. Then Shiva comes. So it goes on. And then they want to know where we have come from. And then eventually they discover that they have come from infinite mother, Adi Shakti, of which there are many, of whom there are many Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. That's how the famous Shiv Puran and the Bhagavad Puran starts. So it starts from the sleep and slowly creation emerges in manifold ways. Dreaming, it throws out mind and heart and soul to labor crippled, bound on the hard earth. A broken hole it works through scattered points. Its gleaming shards are wisdom's diamond thoughts. It shadowy reflects our ignorance. Gleaming shards. A point here, a point there. So shards are, if anything like a mirror or porcelain, it breaks. So, there is a part there. There is a part here. It's gleaming in the light. So that is how our life initially goes from birth to birth. We pick up an experience there, and we try to make a whole out of it. Every experience of life, actually, that is a very beautiful, subtle psychological truth which comes from this, that every person we meet in life, every event we meet in life, every situation and circumstance that we experience in life, actually it's an experience at self-discovery. It's a growth. Because when we meet someone, there are within us reactions and responses. So what happens? We discover something within us. We encounter a situation, we experience something within us. We had never known it. Most of the time we keep it under wraps. That's why when people come here, they begin to discover these things within them, because it brings out all that is hidden. Otherwise, in ordinary life, it takes long for this discovery. Every circumstance brings out. There are people who say, I thought I have no fear, but suddenly I experienced fear because of this. No, not because of this. It was there and it just became an occasion to bring out what was concealed within. So this is how shards of light we begin to gather, and then we begin to discover all that is beautiful and all that is in our understanding undivine, which is yet to change, all that is dark, everything we begin to discover through scattered points. Even in the shadow, even ignorantly when we act, there is within it a point of light. And Sri Aurobindo gives a very interesting example of reflex. Now what is reflex? It is intuition working in ignorance. So let's say, for example, one steps on the tail of an animal or a, you know, snake, it will bite. It's a reflex. Or when we are falling, suddenly out of reflex we make a gesture which saves us. These reflexes are nothing but inbuilt knowledge within us. Or a baby very reflexly goes towards the mother, whoever it is, actually it is known. By reflex it follows, whoever gives it nourishment and nurturing. By reflex we learn how to eat. Nobody has to teach us. You know what, baby, you have to open the mouth, you know how to chew, how to swallow. It's reflex. By reflex we have thirst. All these things which we call as instinct and reflexes are also that same light working in ignorance. So in the beginning, we'll start feeling hungry and thirsty for material food. When we grow up, we'll feel hungry and thirsty for vital foods. When we still grow up, we'll feel hungry and thirsty for mental, intellectual food. When we still grow up, we'll develop the hunger for the infinite. So this is the whole process. The same thing will change. But in the ignorance, it starts as a reflex, hunger. And when you give food, it is satisfied. It starts from the mute mass in countless jets. It fashions a being out of brain and nerve. It is the truth which is lying underneath. So he's saying death, you can't see it. But everything is its working. That knowledge, that wisdom, pragya prashrato purano. It fashions a being out of brain and nerve, a sentient creature from its pleasures and pangs. Slowly all these bring out a personality out of a human being. Imagine, if somebody never experiences joy and sorrow, what kind of a life that would be. I often use this word, perfection of a paralyzed child never falls. The only child who will never fall is somebody who is paralyzed. Therefore, he is wheel bound, chair bound. But is it a life worth living? So we have to meet the challenges of life. Then we experience pleasure and pain. It shapes us. Often pain shapes us more. It beats the hard metal and shapes a personality out of hard mud. Pleasure also shapes us. It shows us the deceptive nature and the illusory nature of many things. So both go into the shaping of man. In our infancy, normally it is pleasure, only chocolates. When we begin to grow up, then Mr. Pain comes, the world's dread teacher, the great creator Pain. He says, now my turn. So Kauravas are shaped by pleasure. All their life they had only kingdom. So ultimately they just had some capacities. But Pandavas are shaped by pain. So they become strong and beautiful and noble beings. So first stage, pleasure, when we are in infancy. And second stage, pain comes. And the third stage is when we transcend both. So pain comes means God is very near. A pack of feelings obscure, a dot of sense. Only the Lord can write like this. A dot of sense. Experiences which are purely sensory in nature. Feelings that come and go. Pack of feelings, like a wave, they will come, then go away. So say, oh, morning I was in this mood, now it's gone. Now it's another mood. So catch when the mood is there. Don't wait, okay, in the evening I'll offer it to the mother. It's no more there, it's hidden somewhere. When it's arising, that's the time to give it. A pack of feelings obscure, a dot of sense, survives a while answering the shocks of life, then crushed or its force spent, leaves the dead form, leaves the huge universe in which it lived, an insignificant, unconsidered guest. So the soul experiences all this, takes it. Shubhinder has used the word, it drinks experience like a strengthening wine. At first it takes desi daru, all the crude experiences. Then afterwards it's a bit refined. It knows it causes vomiting, then it goes into more refined stuff. More refined. But ultimately it knows now ultimately it says, how about having pure spirit? So pure spirit is only possible if you have the spirit with a capital S. But It starts with a mixed stuff where everything is so crude. And slowly, all this goes away. This idea that every transaction is carried, she said, no, it leaves a while, comes, rises, goes away. That's why paying too much attention to these things is not a good thing. We should pay attention to that which is the eternal, the lasting, the true. All these things will come and go away. But there is something which survives. And Sri Aurobindo uses the word unconsidered guest. But the soul grows concealed within its house. It grows through everything. If only this much we understand from Mother and Sri Aurobindo, life will change. And that is the purpose of life, is not to be happy but to progress. And happiness will come as we progress. Many people who go through unhappiness because they are not progressing, they don't realize it. They think it's because of this situation, that circumstance. Not true. It's lack of progress in whatever dimension. So what is needed is to progress. And when we progress, we become happy. That's why one of the things which is a very good antidote to depression is to give something creative and challenging. It will compel us to progress. Basically, it is this. We are here for progress. So through everything we are growing. But unfortunately, unconsciously and through long passage of time. It gives to the body its strength and magnificence. So slowly now, what begins to happen is, now it's the soul which begins to shape the body and the feelings and the thoughts. It follows aims in an ignorant, aimless world. It lends significance to earth's meaningless life. As it begins to develop, it starts looking for meaning, starts looking for aim. One of the signs that developed humanity is that, unconscious humanity just drifts. All this in Savitri elsewhere is explained at great length. Here is summarizing in three sentences. Unconscious humanity drifting. If you ask, is there a goal? No, today's goal, I am going to have fun. I am going to this place, have fun. Tomorrow, another fun. It cannot look beyond the immediate circle of senses, which is about job and marriage and children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-grandchildren, if at all, and cycle to car and scooter and car and whatnot, because it moves within that. So after a while it begins to pale, but as the soul grows, it begins to look for a meaning, purpose, aim. It begins to question and begins to seek. A demigod animal came thinking man. So she qualifies the animal. Man is an animal, but a demigod animal. He is thinking man. His body is like an animal, but he is a candidate for divinity. Therefore, he is a demigod. He wallows in mud, yet heavenward soars in thought. So the Divine Mother knows how our evolution takes place. It is not that today we read Mother and Sri Aurobindo, tomorrow we are all perfect beings. It wallows in mud, yet its thoughts begin to soar towards the light. That is a great vantage point. He plays and ponders, laughs and weeps and dreams, satisfies his little longings like the beast. He pores upon life's book with student eyes. This is the whole journey. We can easily relate with this. Out of this tangle of intellect and sense, out of the narrow scope of finite thought, at last he wakes into spiritual mind. The moon rises. This whole journey is beautifully described at great length in The Secret Knowledge. This is the traveler, world matter slow discoverer. This is the traveler on this sea of flow of time. This whole thing is described in great detail. And how at last, but Savitri has to now reveal to death that, look here, I know what you are saying is man's present reality. But you don't know what I know. At last he is going to wake up to a greater truth, to a greater thought, to a greater mind. The spiritual mind. A high liberty begins and luminous room. From there, freedom actually begins to begin. Up till then, he is a das. When this was asked to Mother, Sri Aurobindo, Mother puts it in a slightly different way, the same truth. That the Gita says that man is bound by nature, so where is freedom? Gita uses the word yandra rodini maya, like a fly on the wheel. So wheel is running and the fly is thinking, I am running the wheel. Actually, fly is moving with the wheel. It can fly, but it's so badly bound. The wheel is running so fast. It cannot. So it is running and it's thinking it is progressing, growing, but the wheel. So yantra runi nimaya. Shubinda says, yes, it is true. 90% of the time, most human beings are really not free. They are bound. They have this illusion of freedom. It is only when the soul begins to awaken that there is some degree of freedom and even fate can be changed. That's why the necessity of awakening the soul. If you really want to be master of circumstances, that's how she puts it in on education. When she speaks about discovery of the psychic being, psychic education. She says, after you have discovered, you walk life like a free person, master of environment and circumstances. Otherwise, of course, that doesn't mean I want to once again arrange all the cozy things of life. No. Yeah, but you are no more a slave. You call the shots because now the master is awakened. But the Divine Mother knows how our mind will play tricks. She put it very interestingly. Amal Kiran asked her, Mother, tell us, is our will free or not? He said, don't give me philosophy. I have read everything possible on the subject. So Mother remained quiet for a moment. Then she says, it is better to think that you have a free will. It is. Otherwise, and Sri Aurobindo puts it in a different way in one of his essays, All Will and Free Will. He says, actually, it doesn't make a difference. Man still acts as if he has a free will. And I have a very simple, often this question is asked, oh, mother will do everything, mother will do everything. I said, yes, you say this when you are not going to look for your next meal. Then you have a right to say mother will do everything. But as long as you are actually walking to your next meal, till then you say, I make an effort and I have to do my bit. Of course, later on you discover the effort, the hunger, the provision, everything was her. It's no more your energy. It's, you think you made an effort, but actually she is moving us. But that's the greater truth. But ignorantly, then it will lead to straight tamas. So here, slowly the awakening is taking place and he is becoming, a high liberty begins. At least there is a part which remains free from the clutches of nature. This is a great vantage point. Whatever may happen, something in us begins to become free. He glimpses eternity, touches the infinite. He meets the gods in great and sudden hours. Even in this ignorance, as he enters the spiritual mind, he begins to get a glimpse of the eternal. He, like Sri Aurobindo describes, standing before a Kali goddess in Narmada, suddenly he sees the world mother. These glimpses begin to come. Because it's no more like, okay, to a murti, to fulfill my desires. No more like that. There are touches of eternity. There are touches of the infinite which shatter our mental measures in which we are locked. It just liberates us. This is another kind of liberation. All the mental measures, standards, yardsticks. So we begin to live like Shiva. It doesn't matter whether we have a Mercedes or not. Bull is also chalega. That's what Shiva is. It doesn't matter. He has strange vahana, That's another problem of Daksh, that I can't marry my daughter to somebody who has bull as a vahana. At least he should have a Garuda, or a Hansa, such nice vahanas of Brahma and Vishnu. He is moving on a slow-moving bull. And Shiva would say, well, that goes with my personality. I am strong as a bull. And what does it matter? I am Shiva, whether I have a bull or not. Now that's the kind of freedom that begins to come. He meets the gods in great and sudden hours. He feels the universe as his larger self. He is no more crammed up into me and mine. The me too changes into we too. The we too into Nikhil Brahmandana Ek Tu Hi Hari. That's famous Narsi Mehta's bhajan, no? He says that there is none else but thou. All these begins to spread into the cosmic consciousness. Begins to become vast. The pain of others begins to affect such a being. The joy of others also affects such a being. He extends far beyond. Like, look at Buddha. I mean, somebody would say, what an impractical person. What was your problem? Why did you have to go to the jungle? How will they understand Buddha was moved at the plight of humanity? Buddha was a happy man. He had everything. Wife, child, ghar, bar, palace, going to be king. What did he need? Nothing. But because Buddha is born with a cosmic sentiment, he looks at death and says, death exists, suffering exists, disease exists, let me find the cure. This is the cosmic sentiment. And of course, we know how Sri Aurobindo, with all that experiences, comes to Pondicherry. For whom? For the sake of humanity. So this is how, of course, this is an ultimate level, but humanity begins to extend into the universe. Make space and time his opportunity. So this is a very beautiful space and opportunity. All the things, objects, experiences, relationships, incidents, context becomes an opportunity to progress. This is the difference. As somebody was saying, when a donkey fell into the well and people started putting dirt over it, what did the donkey do? It shook its back and the dirt fell below. And the more dirt they threw on the donkey, saying, donkey, 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 would just shake the back and the dirt will fall below. And so it started coming up. Ultimately, it came out and said, you donkey. Me no donkey. So that's the difference. What spiritual person also goes through the same experiences. Everybody says, look at this donkey. So he says, yes, throw all the heap of mud on me, see what I am going to do out of it. This is my opportunity to progress. And time becomes his opportunity. Sri Aurobindo says one of the 4 aids, time. And what he says with regard to time. To learn to wait is to put time on our side. Not to haste, not to be impatient. So when we do that, even time and the unfolding of things becomes an opportunity. Everything becomes an opportunity for the soul to progress at that stage. To join the heights and depths of being in light, which means we discover different parts within us at different points of time, and we take it as an opportunity to join these to the light and not say, oh my God, once again, this is in me. No, it's in me, it's in creation, it's in nature. All nature is within me. One of the first discoveries through yoga is that what is in everyone is within us. So when we are ignorant, then we say, oh, that guy, this guy, as if I am a very holy man. No, everybody has everything. It starts with that. And then slowly we discover. So what is the difference? Everybody has everything. Another person either is wallowing in it or concealing it or being a hypocrite. What does the yogin do? Exposes it to light. My opportunity to join it to the light. So that way everything, every experience becomes a means to join it to the light. In the heart's cave, speak secretly with God. That's where the original temple is. And when we discover it, then whole earth becomes a temple and a tirth sthali. We don't need to go to a temple. The whole creation becomes a temple of the Lord. But these are touches and high moments lived. Fragments of truth supreme have lit his soul, reflections of the sun in waters still. So we should not think this is the end of the journey. This is the beginning of a new journey. So these touches are the grace, gifts of grace that are given to human soul to wake up. It's like we are in a dream world. And maybe a pleasant dream or a nightmare dream. And the mother outside is waking us up. You have to go to school. You have to learn new things. No, mama, I want to sleep further. Then eventually opens. Now it's a next phase of the journey. These are the touches. The Divine Mother has woken up the child. And now a new set of journey will start. And that's what our focus should be. A few have dared the last supreme ascent. Up till this, mankind has experienced. But beyond this, man hardly attempts. And break through borders of blinding light above, beyond the rational mind, basically. And feel a breath around of mightier air. Receive a vaster being's messages. And bathe in its immense intuitive ray. There are few who break through the borders of the mind, human mind. Before that, even in the rational mind, there are some touches, spiritual mind illumination. But he begins to break free into that. We can compare it with the touches like at night, a glimpse of the moon. So this moon waxes and wanes. But it's one thing to glimpse the moon, and quite another to dharan karo the moon on the head. That's what is the difference between Chandrasekhara and here we have the moon on our head, but we are here and the moon is there. When we grow in the stature of the soul and the moon is right there on our head, shedding its ray, then we are one with Chandrasekhara. That is the difference. Man should grow in that height and the stature. So, but where there are hardly anybody here and there who even seeks to climb that. But that's not the end. There is a whole thing. On summit mind are radiant altitudes. When you go to moon, you begin to see there is a greater light. There is a possibility of going to Mars and Venus and Sun. Exposed to the luster of infinity. Outskirts and dependencies of the house of truth. It's not yet the house of truth. House of truth is supermind. But there are outskirts like, kings' palaces and, like we have our lieutenant governor, but on the side you see those rooms. All the people who work there, it's their quarters. So if you go to one of these quarters and, make friends, now he can little bit influence. He'll say, अच्छा ठीक है, आपको मिलना है, हम मिला देंगे. I'll outskirts and dependencies. So, but that is not the big guy. Big guy is inside. Or the PA. So these are ranges where we begin to receive something of that light. And a new kind of thought, a revelatory thought begins to inspire our tongue and speech and mind. So that's the ascension. Outskirts and dependencies of the house of truth. Upraised estates of mind and measureless. Upraised estates. So you go to, coffee garden. So whose coffee garden is? Oh, sahab, wo to udhar rehte hain. The owner lives somewhere. So when you go, you are enjoying. Then when you go to the owner, then what he'll tell you? Oh, you have seen that part? No, I'll show you very good. The best coffee garden. And the most aromatic stuff I'll give you. He knows now the whole estate. So we are in the estate. Upraised estates, but not yet in the house. So this is how he is describing the ascension to higher levels of mind. There man can visit, but there he cannot live. This is the problem, one of the problem. In beautiful moments, usually in trance, now of course the game is changed. So we can to an extent live in that atmosphere. But still there is a tendency for our nether members, matter and matter-bound mind to pull us back. That is the problem, one of the problems of evolution and transformation. So even when we have these touches, there are beautiful moments when the mind can touch these measureless portions, outskirts of the divine, and come back and breathe the fresh air and say, it was so beautiful out there. But back home, the same crowd, the same problem. Like for a moment you can withdraw into high altitudes of the Himalayas, but then after some time your mobile will ring. Because nowadays you have everywhere 4G. And somebody will tell you from home, you know what, you are urgently needed. Oh, you have to cut short the trip and come back. So this is the problem, that man cannot live there. He can visit on a visitor visa. A cosmic thought spreads out its vastitudes. Now he starts describing layer by layer. These thoughts are very vast. They are not confined to just immediate, superficial information and the data received. Its smallest parts are here philosophies, challenging with their detailed immensity, each figuring an omniscient scheme of things. True philosophy, not borrowed philosophy. A person who has lived in the higher mind or experienced there can make a philosophy, a whole system, because that's how that realm is. It begins to reveal a deeper truth, symbolic truths, and it can create a philosophy which is complete in itself. But of course, it is also a trap hole for the human mind must ascend still further. But this is one of the things that happens. It happens even with when we read Sri Aurobindo and something begins to happen inside, we have a tendency to turn it into a system of thought. Even we have, I don't know, I saw a book where on top there is Sri Aurobindo's picture, on below there is some philosopher's picture, and it's the philosophy of something Sri Aurobindo's. That's how human mind reduces it into a formula. But anyone who had a glimpse of truth knows that all that you can speak about truth will be at once true and untrue. Sri Aurobindo puts it in such a beautiful way. He says, when you know that the very opposite of truth is also true, then you begin to ascend into the higher realms. Everything is true in its own place and time, in context, in its own process. So, but when we try to cut it and reduce it into a fixed formula, because human mind can't handle the measureless. So there is a tendency in the higher mind, it begins to receive the light, but it must reduce it to a formula. But higher still can climb the ascending light. There are vasts of vision and eternal suns. Now the light grows, begins to illumine the very sight. So the higher mind is like light which is illumining there, but our own sight is limited. But now the very eyes begin to change. Oceans of an immortal luminousness, flame hills assaulting heaven with their peaks. There dwelling, all becomes a blaze of sight. Sight begins to change. So one begins to see and not just think or conceive truth. That's the big difference from higher mind. Of course, seeing is not, again we come back to visions. It's not about vision, but a visionary seeing. A seeing which transcends the mortal limitations. It's not a conception, but an actual visionary experience of reality. A burning head of vision leads the mind. Thought trails behind it its long comet tail. Something is seen, and it can be expressed in multiple ways through thought. You can write books and yet not exhaust it, because that's how that vision is. That one vision captures so much. So thought trails behind it its long comet tail. In the higher mind, they is still at the level of thought. Now this is something different, is sight. The heart glows and illuminate and sear, and sense is kindled into identity. The change is not only in the mind and thought, but the heart begins to grow into a cosmic feeling, a cosmic sentiment, a cosmic vision, and even the senses begin to feel the touch of the eternal. So it's no more, the touch of identity. It's not yet identity, but as if one has touched the body of truth. So they begin to grow into a state of identity. We'll read one more realm, then we stop. Beyond this illumination is the intuitive realm, which is like lightning spears into a sky which suddenly show in one moment things which would take years for the normal human mind to really fathom. A highest flight climbs to a deepest view. In a wide opening of its native sky, intuitions, lightnings range in a bright pack, series of lightnings coming and illumining a whole field, and suddenly you are filled with joy and wonder and sight and knowledge. You see, Ari, this is it. So that's the joy of, that vision. Hunting all hidden truths out of their layers. That's how in the Vedas, this power of intuition, this goddess is called Sarma. And somewhere she is described as the hound of heaven. There's a whole poem on that. So she is the hound. So what does she do? What is hidden inside the lyre, that it will dig out. Even the subconscious elements, even the hidden impulses, urges, which one cannot see. There's a whole colloquy in the Vedas about the hound of heaven who goes and colloques with the Panis and Vritras who are hidden inside a cave. Indra tells you, go and tell them to come out. So she tries to tell them that you come out, you can undergo a change. So they say, no, no, we are going to bribe you. Actually, that's how the story goes. We'll bribe you. You go and tell this to Indra. And then she goes, and then since they don't come out, they don't agree. So Indra calls Agast Rishi, and there is the word, and the cave is shattered, and then they are destroyed. Actually, it is the destruction of darkness. But if they come out and take the ascension, there is the possibility of transformation of Vritras and the Pani. So this is the whole story in the Vedas. So Sri Aurobindo uses that expression, hunting all hidden truths out of their lives. It's fiery edge of seeing absolute. That's why when intuition works, everything that is inside begins to come out. It's the action of truth in the subconscious. Cleaves into locked, unknown retreats of self. Look at the power of these words. When intuition acts like a sharp sword, elsewhere Sri Aurobindo describes it as a stab of light. It cleaves. Darkness is cut asunder, and what was hidden inside comes out. And what one has to do? One has to do the same thing, keep offering. And let that also share the illumination and the transformation. This is how transformation proceeds. Unknown retreats of self, wherever it was hiding. Rummages the sky recesses of the brain, lights up the occult chambers of the heart. That's how we begin to feel the divine presence. Occult chambers where the divine was hidden. So that begins to become clear to the inner view. Its spear point, ictus of discovery, pressed on the cover of name, the screen of form, strips bare the secret soul of all that is. So it presses on the name and form till it yields, and what is hidden behind, that is revealed to us. That is the difference between what the divine sees and how we human beings see. We see the form and a name, but the divine sees the secret soul within. Why? Because he has that power. So we may say that, well, why the divine is doing this and that to this and that, to Kawa and Bagula and Koel. But the divine knows what is needed because he sees the very heart of things. And we too, if this faculty awakens in us, which will awaken in mankind one day, we will be able to live then in the very heart of truth. So we'll stop here and continue next session after 10 minutes break.